Yep, there she is.
Yep.
So this time I won't forget to introduce you before. So everybody listen up. Nicole Sandkulla is the CEO, General Manager of the Bay Area Water Supply and Conservation Authority?
Agency.
Agency.
Mhm.
And as a matter of fact, Nicole, are you the only one?
I am the second one.
The second one. Okay, I wondered if you,
Number two.
yes. And BAWSCA, as it's more commonly known, a sturdy acronym, represents the 26 water suppliers that purchase water wholesale from the San Francisco Regional Water System. This involves delivery to 1.8 million people, 40,000 businesses across Alameda, Santa Clara, and San Mateo counties. So Ms. Sandkulla is responsible for achieving BAWSCA's goals of ensuring a reliable supply of high quality water at a fair price. And she has 30 years of technical and policy level experience. Looks so young.
Thank you. I appreciate
Related
that.
to all aspects of water resource management, water agency operations, and leadership of a multi-agency, multi-county special district. A lot of three-dimensional chess involved, and her schooling as in civil engineering and registration as a PE helps her to do it. So I'll let you. You could take a screen if you'd like, or
Yeah, I can
and
take the screen, I think. Let's see if this
move
works.
forward, and I will make myself scarce.
All right. There we go. Nope, nope. All right. Well, thank you so much, Dennis and Sustainable Silicon Valley, for inviting me here. It's actually quite an honor to follow Felicia, and I have to say, beavers have actually been in a lot of conversations in my family and house as kind of knowing what's coming up with them. So I'm going to talk a little bit about BAWSCA and what we do, but really spend my time today kind of focusing on kind of what Dennis hit on, which is this issue of, these multi-layered communications and connections that BAWSCA engages in, and kind of thinking about that and how we manage those relationships to achieve results for the water customers. And I think, we are somewhat unique, but some of these things that we do, I think, can be very helpful as you kind of expand them to the larger water environment. So BAWSCA, as Dennis mentioned, is the Bay Area Water Supply and Conservation Agency. We serve 26 water suppliers in 3 counties. That is the map of our agencies on the right side of your screen. So essentially everything south of San Francisco in San Mateo County, Santa Clara County suppliers that rim the bay, and then 2 agencies in Alameda County up to and including the city of Hayward. And the connection between all of them, why are we all together in this interesting experiment for BAWSCA, is that they all rely upon the San Francisco Hetch Hetchy Regional Water System. So here's a list of my agencies, just kind of pro forma to put them up there. An important thing about BAWSCA is that we also, besides having 26 member agencies, we have a 26-member board. So each of the agencies appoints a representative to the regional board. And once they're appointed, they are not representative of their appointing agency. They are actually one of 26 representatives for the entire region. And that was set up very specifically by the legislation that passed. We'll have our 20-year anniversary this weekend, actually, for the anniversary of the legislation signing. It was set up intentionally to represent regionally the voices of these water customers. So BAWSCA's goal is very simple, a reliable supply of high quality water at a fair price. All of our work is focused on that goal. You'll notice I didn't mention that we operate anything or we do any kind of water distribution, and we don't. So it in some ways makes it easier for us to focus on this singular goal because we don't operate a system. So some more about the system that we rely upon, again, because it's kind of important into the context of why we're together as an agency. So this map shows the San Francisco regional water system that stretches the full width of the state of California. On your right side, eastern side of California, is the Hetch Hetchy Reservoir and the Tuolumne River watershed. 85% of the supply that's delivered by the San Francisco regional water system comes from the Tuolumne River watershed and is moved through Hetch Hetchy Reservoir across the entire width of California through very large pipelines into the hills behind the East Bay. There's 2 terminal reservoirs in the East Bay, and then it comes across in 2 sets of pipelines, 3 pipelines that cross over by the Dumbarton Bridge, 2 that go around the South Bay, and deliver water up to and including the city and county of San Francisco. Along the way, there's 3 more reservoirs along the peninsula. This system is pretty amazing in that it can run entirely by gravity, delivering water from Hetch Hetchy Reservoir to, the wharf in San Francisco without any pumping required, without filtration. It just needs some minor treatments. It's a pretty impressive system that we all rely upon. And the BAWSCA agencies are very reliant on this system. In fact, they buy 2/3 of the water that they need to meet their customers' needs as a group comes from the San Francisco regional water system. So what you see here is a pie chart that kind of shows their breakdown of their water supply portfolio, again, as a group. And this is from 2021, so fiscal year 2021. So we've got the San Francisco purchases. We also have agencies that produce recycled water. We have other sources. Some of our agencies, namely Alameda County Water District, has its own state water project supply. We have agencies in Santa Clara County that purchase water from Valley Water District, some surface water. The other important thing about this is that not only does the San Francisco supply represent 2/3 of what my agencies deliver to their customers, we actually also purchase 2/3 of the water that the regional water system produces. So as a group, we are the single largest customer for the city and county of San Francisco's regional water system. And we buy that water by contract. It's a contractual relationship. And so we pay 2/3 of the cost for the regional water system. So as we all know, water use in California, I'm starting to think that we are now kind of in, an extended drought is one of the things I think about. And we're all looking at how do we use our water more efficiently. And this just shows some history about the water use in this region. Going back to 75, 76, which is as far back as we have kind of very competent data, showing water demand. So this is total demand for the BAWSCA agencies over time through 2021. You'll see the drought years that are that horizontal, like kind of hashtagged columns. And you'll see in the droughts, right, as we all have noticed, that water use goes down and then it will rebound a little bit, but it doesn't ever get fully back to what it was before the drought. But if you look to the right side of the graph, what you see are these continuing drought periods that we're getting. And they're kind of like backing up to each other and we're not getting this rebound. And on top of that, we've got things like economic crises and, pandemics. So it's really changing the characteristic of our water use. In fact, what we know is that we use in the region 24% less water today than we did in 1986, 87. Despite the fact that we've had 32% population growth over that time. So how did we do that? How did this region do that? Well, we really did it by efficiency, really investing in our communities for water use efficiency, both local investments, regional investments, individual water customers investments. So this graph just shows you some trends for per capita water use. So the top one is a gross per capita, which is basically just all use divided by the number of residents. But I would say focus on the bottom line, that orange line, that's residential per capita. And, I actually forgot until I pulled this up again to prepare for this, that we actually had a peak residential per capita use, and that was before the 76, 77 drought of almost 115 gallons per person per day. We are now down to, as of 2021, 66 gallons per person per day. And it's lower today still, given the current drought conditions. So we've seen this steady decline in per capita use, which is a great thing. It's enabled us to live within the supplies that we have, but it does begin to wonder, at what point do we run into demand hardening? And it informs how we have to deal with that next increment, and how do we deal with ensuring that goal of a reliable supply of high quality water at a fair price. So kind of transitioning now to what BAWSCA is doing, and then I'll talk about how we do it. Our job really, again, going back to that, meeting our goal of reliable supply of high quality water, we're really looking at the risks and the threats to the system and taking action where we can to deal with it. Our system is certainly subject to a lot of risks, and these are not unusual in the state of California right now. Pressures for population growth and pressures for job growth. Our region is gets some of the highest numbers for smart growth because of the jobs in the region, the transportation corridors, the existing density already. And so my agencies are really struggling with how to meet these new mandates from the state. Climate change is already impacting us as well. Drought, sea level rise, we've got regulatory actions that can significantly impact our existing supplies. The most obvious one, and the biggest one, is the Bay Delta Plan. There has been historically some legal action with groups that want to breach the O'Shaughnessy Reservoir and drain Hetch Hetchy. And then on top of all this, and one that's really coming to the forefront more than it ever has in my 30 years in this work, is the question of affordability. Because dealing with any of these risks requires an investment. And the investment question is, how can we afford this? So water conservation remains critically important. It's our easiest to implement, most cost-effective supply. But we're also evaluating potential investments jointly with other regional partners. Things like partnering on the Los Piqueros expansion, partnering on Pacheco Reservoir. Investing in local drought-proof supplies are becoming increasingly more important. We actually have projects within most of the wastewater agencies now within our membership area, examining potable reuse and how we can look to develop that and to bring it and incorporate it directly into our supply as a way to drought-proof our supply. My team and I often talk about, really taking advantage of these opportunities. It's never enjoyable to be in water during a drought, but it is also what we like to call a good crisis. Everybody's focused on water. People talk about it. People are considering it. People are wondering about what's going to happen when it's not there. And so while we're in this drought and having to deal with it and trying to figure out how we're going to manage our way through it, we're also looking to the future to say, how do we build on this conversation to better move our projects forward or our thoughts forward about where that next investment goes. So, major question is, I get a lot of people that say to me, so how do you guys get anything done? You got 26 board members, 26 agencies, 3 counties and all this stuff. How do you get anything done? BAWSCA was created by the state specifically, given the state's interests and concerns about the security of this region's water supply. At the time, in 2002, that interest was focused on the concerns that the Hetch Hetchy system, the regional water system, would fail during an earthquake, and investments that needed to be made and actually have been made, almost $5 billion, to make sure that system withstands an earthquake. But in the course of that, BAWSCA has engaged and now maintains our close relationships with the state and federal officials on issues that are very specific to us. We also are focused on ensuring that San Francisco meets its obligations to the BAWSCA agencies. As I mentioned before, this is not a representational relationship between BAWSCA agencies and the wholesale customers and San Francisco. It's a contractual relationship. And so one of the jobs that BAWSCA has is to make sure that San Francisco meets its perpetual obligation to the wholesale customers, that it operates the regional system appropriately so they can meet those obligations. And we track all the money that San Francisco spends to make sure that we can affirm that it's appropriate. And so we rely on our relationship with our 26 members to meet their needs. They are incredibly diverse. It's probably one of the most exciting things about this job, is that, you know, they span a huge range. We've got large agencies, small agencies, we've got cities and water districts, we've got public and private utilities, single and multiple source. Just to kind of give you a sense for this. So from a kind of this diversity question, as Dennis mentioned, my agency serve 1.8 million people. Our smallest agency is actually the city of Brisbane, just south of San Francisco. And they serve just a little over, 4,500 people in that little town. Alameda County Water District, by comparison, serves Fremont, Union City, and Newark, the large cities in Silicon Valley, and they serve 358,000 people, give or take. For the breakdown between cities and water districts, cities, are the largest number. There's 16, but we have 8 water districts as well, and then 2 privates, Cal Water and actually Stanford University. And then 3 counties, again, broken out not equally, 16 agencies, 16 members in San Mateo County, 8 in Santa Clara County, and 2 in Alameda County. And really importantly, one of the things this big breakout is, how dependent are these agencies on the regional water system? And, 65% of them are more than 90% reliant on the regional water system. 35% are less than 90% reliant. And there's really like a big break between that as well. And that really informs their thinking about how important the current supply is and where they want to make their next set of investments. So how do we manage these relationships? What does BAWSCA do to really achieve success with this diverse membership and pretty significant needs as regards to threats and risks to future water supply? I think the biggest thing is we're really focused on our goal, reliable supply of high quality water at a fair price. Everything that we do points back to that. And we actually think about it from the perspective of the water customer first, not from our agencies. Again, as I said, the board is appointed by the member agency to the regional board, and then they represent the regional water customers, and that is the focus. The other piece is that we are a source of factual information. Historically, one of BAWSCA's early roles, and it associated even with we were a nonprofit before we became a public agency, was we managed this contract with San Francisco. And so we kept track of a lot of data. All the data that I've used here today, we publish our data on our website, and we capture this data every year. And it's critically important for us as part of our ability to do the job for our agencies. So we are a source of factual information, and we work hard to instill the trust and confidence in the agency and the staff with our members. Our board is 26, and they work hard to focus on policy and on the agency goal. They approve our work plan and they approve the budget every year, but they don't really get engaged in the day-to-day of the agency business. They charge the CEO with delivering the results, and then they, evaluate the agency on behalf of that at the end of the year. Our success, as I kind of look at it, is really related to how well we're connected to our agencies and their customers. And so we work hard with that communication. And that has certainly been a struggle through COVID. And we are now starting to meet back in person again, which we're very excited about. But that is a real piece. We spend a lot of time in engagement with our member agencies about different pieces of things. Making sure that we are the representative for them that knows them very, very well. We're a small organization, so we have 9 full-time employees. We also have very long tenure, which is another, I think, asset to the agency. Average tenure. As Dennis mentioned, I mean, I've been with the agency for 23 years now, and we end up being back to that source of factual information. It's also the history for everyone. And, we will get calls to say, what happened with this? Let's manage through this again, those types of things. And so we work hard to maintain that tenure and to ensure that, the employees are engaged in this work to the benefit of the water customers. And again, it all goes back to delivering these critical results to the water customers all the time. That's whenever we start thinking about something, that's where our focus ends up being. And as I kind of look back, we're now celebrating, we're not celebrating yet, but we'll be passing our 20-year anniversary for when the legislation was signed. And, we've made a lot of progress for the water customers, but it's important that we keep focusing on those critical results as we move forward and trying to deal with these challenges ahead that we all know are there to make sure that we can meet our goal of a reliable supply of high quality water at a fair price. So that concludes my planned remarks, Dennis. Again, thank you very much for having me here.
Well, no, thanks. Thanks for coming. I learned a lot of things about BAWSCA. I appreciate your, viewing this, and also, talking about, say, the investment opportunities. I know Arvind Arkella will be talking about what Silicon Valley Clean Water has planned, along with the different partners like BAWSCA and Redwood City and San Mateo and Cal Water, actually.
Right. No, we're super excited about that project and the other ones. I mean, it's definitely, that goes back to this whole don't waste the crisis, right? As a water, we've all looked at reuse for some time and potable reuse some time, but was really after the last drought period when, I sat down, for example, with Steve Ritchie at PUC and said, okay, we have to figure out what we're going to do. We're seeing climate change. We need some investments in real water that's going to make a real difference, and got him to agree with this. And the PUC has been fully on board with potable reuse since then. So, I really see this region taking strides.
I mean, the plan is for 12 million gallons a day, which
just that one project, right?
is a few buckets worth.
A few buckets worth, exactly. Well, and they're, I think the nice thing is there's a lot of reasons other than just water supply for why those projects are important. And I think that's going to be important to get them over the finish line, because they are going to be controversial. They are going to be expensive, but they also can deal potentially with these things that are going on now with the Bay water, right? And what improvements the wastewater plants have to make to deal with, their current discharges. How can we all partner together to fix that problem and deal with the water supply issue, and try to spread the benefits enough so we can get some more money so we can kind of do this in an affordable fashion.
Yeah, well, Make Water is part of one of our pillars, so we certainly look forward to supporting that, because it's going to take a while. But Silicon Valley Clean Water has certainly has experience getting construction projects complicated and done. And
Right.
so actually, it is kind of funny, because on a budget basis, I mean, it's always going to be hard to raise money and everything, but on a budget basis, this is relatively small in some way. I mean, they're talking about 180 million. I mean, there's been huge billions spent upgrading their facility.
That's my hope. I mean, that goes back to this, together as a partnership, can we find the solution that is more cost effective for all of us, right? And if it's something, because that's why they originally came to the table. They originally actually knocked on our door a while ago. I can't remember how long ago it was, but they were like, we're looking down the future. We know we have to make investments. Are you looking at anything like this? And that's when we started the conversation. And I'm excited about it. I wish it could go faster. honestly, but that's a lot of that's out of my control. So, but I know our board's very excited about it as well.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it would offer certainly offer a steady supply of water. Um, Now, a number of sessions we'll be talking about the byproducts of advanced purification, and so this just lends more weight behind those investigations. So, I
Well,
mean,
that's going to be a big piece of it. I know there's been a lot of discussion, on microplastics and kind of these new contaminants of concern that, we're all going to have to start testing for, right? And then how do you deal with them and who takes the responsibility for them and stuff like that? Because they end up being a big part of the cost too.
one thing I'm going to mention, and I'm going to mention it a lot in the next couple days, is something that David Sedlak said almost offhandedly, Professor Sedlak from Berkeley, and he was talking about brine and the byproduct of RO, the RO concentrate, in that the salt isn't really a problem. It's the impurities. It's all that
Other stuff.
metals and different things, the other stuff, and including including PFOA and PFOS as well. And in a way, though, that was a really interesting take on it. I thought in a way. So, but hopefully we'll have clever ways to kind of deal with this. I mean, some enterprises have put things on a barge and kind of shipped it to Mexico, and I don't think that's a really sustainable solution.
No,
So
no.
I think we need to take that head on, especially with the other contaminants and other chemicals of concern and everything. I mean, I've been reading in environmental working group stuff in the past couple days, and if my hair wasn't gray before, it is certainly now.
No, that's a big thing. And unfortunately, from a water agency perspective, so like from us, like think about us right now, the regional water system, the San Francisco system, doesn't really have a huge issue with things like microplastics because of our source water and different things. But if we become engaged on a potable reuse project and become a partner in it, then we take on some responsibility associated with the effluent that already existed there. But that's a risk factor that's starting to show up as these concerns are getting raised, by board members and others to say, we don't want to deal with one problem and accept
Right.
another significant
Another-
risk.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we just have to go through this carefully.
Yeah. No, I think that's going to be the big challenge. Is waste byproducts, right? Will be hopefully be much better than the nuclear industry.
Gosh, okay, well,
Yeah.
that's a really low bar there, man. But yes. So.
Well, on that happy note, I'm going to let the lady sing